We'll begin with this first question. As Hannah just explained here, I just got an email from the L'chaim Center in Deerfield. One of the men that I used to know, uh, just by saying hi, passed away. Zoom funeral is tomorrow. Should I attend? So I suppose the question is, should we attend funerals of people that we barely knew? And especially now with the technology of Zoom, does it really make a difference when people might not be able to see or feel your presence? So you never know. First of all, I'm big into, this is one of the most important mitzvot, halvayat hamet. In fact, at each and every day in the morning prayer, at the very, very beginning of the morning prayer, we speak about elu dvarim she'ein lahem shiur. These are the mitzvot that have no measurement, that are so great that God, that we can't even measure them. In the eyes of God, they are infinitely great. And one of these mitzvot are escorting the dead, or funeral, going to a funeral, attending a funeral. Now, there is no doubt that that brings a lot of comfort to the mourners. Just being there, even just them seeing your name on the screen, or maybe it's not even your name, it's just the number of people that attended. Wow, I had 50 people at my husband's funeral, or 100 people, whatever it is, and you participate in increasing that number. That in of itself can bring tremendous comfort to the mourner. So if you have the opportunity to attend a funeral, absolutely do so. In addition, that I think that attending a funeral, of course, is not something that we like to do. Certainly not something that we choose to do very often. I mean, we can choose, as mentioned, to attend people's funerals or not, but it's death is something that thrust upon us. And but nonetheless, I think attending a funeral gives every attendant a sense that life is precious, and being awakened by a funeral is not such a bad thing at the end of the day, because it teaches a lot. It teaches us how to live more purposefully, more meaningfully, more fully. So even for that alone, for that selfish reason alone, it's also worth attending funerals, even if it's of people that we did not know much. Okay, next question, which is somewhat connected. So, dear Rabbi, what is the reason for the custom of mourners tearing the clothing um, on the tearing the clothing? Didn't quite understand you. What is the reason for the custom of mourners tearing the clothing on the death of a loved one? Okay, so it's true. And by the way, most funerals begin with that tearing of the clothing, that the immediate relatives of the person deceased, whether it's the children, the siblings, or God forbid the parents, or the spouses, they have to tear the clothes. So there is the simple reason of why people do that. And that is to symbolize that indeed something very dear to them has been torn away from their lives. So that person is no longer with them physically, it's been torn away. And this is what the tearing of the clothing really symbolizes. But there is a deeper, more Kabbalistic reason that I think really speaks to the viewpoint of Judaism on death. And that is, it's quite interesting to note that what is it that we tear? We tear our clothing. We don't make a blemish on our skin, for example. We don't do any other customs that other religions do. What do we tear? Our clothing. To symbolize something quite powerful, that death might mean that the outside layer of ourselves is no longer there, but the inside layer of ourselves forever remains. The body is gone, but the soul is eternal and it forever remains. The tearing of the clothing symbolizes just that the outside layer is torn. That is what has been affected. But we ought to remember that that soul, the internal layer, is intact. The soul is forever there. So as much as it is a symbol of something that has been torn for us, it is also in a way a reminder to the mourner that their loved one is still there. Their deepest core remains intact. Their body, their external layer might have been torn away, but just as it is when we tear our clothes, our essence does not go away, and so too does the essence of the loved of the deceased not go away. So that's the deeper reason really of why we tear our clothes.
Rabbi, but now they don't tear their clothes. They just put like a little black thing.
Yeah, I mean, some people use black ribbons to tear. But again, that's the same idea.
Okay.
That's right. Okay. All right. This is an interesting question here. Dear Rabbi, I go jogging every Saturday morning, and I often pass by your synagogue. I remember seeing a very nice crowd joining you every week before COVID-19 hit us. Indeed, and we hope for those days to come back very soon, please God. Now, the question is this, to be honest, I don't see why people go to services every single Shabbat. Can you please explain that to me? I go once or twice a year, and that seems quite enough. So I'm going to answer you based on what you are writing right here. And that is, you say that you go jogging every Saturday morning. Why not go jogging just once a year or twice a year? For me, that's just enough. Why go jogging every single Saturday morning? I mean, I'm sure it's tiring sometimes. I'm sure it's hard to get out of bed sometimes. I'm sure it's an imposition sometimes. I'm sure it's conflicts with your schedule sometimes. Maybe you want to go golfing. Maybe your spouse wants you to stay home. Who knows? But why do you go jogging every Saturday morning? And the reason I think I know is clear is because bodily exercise takes consistency. But guess what? Soulful exercise also takes consistency. And just as we need to exercise the body, we need to exercise the soul. And people come to services every week in order to do just that. Now, it's true. I know that there are synagogues that don't exercise the soul. That are there maybe to provide some sort of comfortable feeling, but certainly not exercise. Our synagogue is a gym for the soul. We push people to their limits. We want people to take yet another mitzvah. We want people to never be satisfied with what they spiritually achieved yesterday, but to continue to grow today more than yesterday and less than tomorrow. That's the exercise I'm referring to of the soul. And for that, you need to come every week. For that, you need to exercise every week as you jog too, every week for the bodily exercise. And I really do believe that if a person exercises his body, then he's healthy in his body. If a person exercises his soul, then his soul will be healthy. What do I mean by that? I think there are many soulful diseases. Depression is one of them, certainly connected to chemicals and bodily things too, but it's also a very spiritual disease. And there are other diseases. This disease maybe of being completely unsatisfied with life. That's a soulful disease. And if we don't exercise the soul, then God forbid, our soul can be a little bit sick, can have those diseases. So they come to synagogue, we go to synagogue, and we do other things. We do mitzvahs each and every day and each and every week because we believe in the exercise of the soul and its importance at least as much as the importance of the exercise of the body. And to conclude just with, I know I've said this many times, but I once asked my beloved Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz's blessed memory, that if he had to condense the idea of Judaism into one word, what word would he choose? I think most of you know this by now. He would choose the word consistency. Not love, not kindness, not peace and love, not consistency. Because indeed, Judaism boils down to the consistency of our soulful and bodily, indeed, exercise. And that's what coming to synagogue every week is all about. Okay, next question. And I believe that this is the last question of this week. And then we'll open this up to any questions you may have. Okay, dear Rabbi. Okay, I think I get the laws of keeping kosher. But why do Jews give the poor old pig such a hard time? Is pig more unkosher than other animals? So it's true. You're absolutely right. You know, the laws of kashrut, of keeping kosher, are pretty black and white. There's in fact a very strict definition of what is kosher and what is not kosher in Judaism, and therefore the pig is just as unkosher as any other non-kosher animal. Why do we give it such a hard time? I'm thinking of two reasons. One, maybe it's a filthy animal, and You know, we very clean people. We are. Look at the laws of washing your hands. You have to wash your hands after you come out of the bathroom. You have to wash your hands before you go to pray, before you eat bread. When you wake up in the morning, we wash our hands all the time. That's why I never truly understood the anti-Semites who called the Jews dirty Jews. We're the furthest from dirty. And so we clean people, and pigs are maybe filthy, so maybe that's one reason, but I think there's a deeper reason. And that is that for a kosher animal to be kosher, as many of you know, it needs two signs. It needs to have split hooves, and it needs to chew its cud, which means that it regurgitates its food and in a way chews it again and again and again, like the cow, for example. That's why the cow is kosher. The cow also has split hooves. There is one animal in which we are not sure. It looks like he chews his cuds. It's cuds, but it doesn't. And that's the pig. The pig tricks us. It has split hooves, and we think that it has that second sign. But if you study the anatomy of the pig, you'll find out that it's not true. He doesn't. He just acts as if. All other animals are pretty straightforward about it. They are either kosher or not kosher, and they don't play any trickery games. The pig does. And in Judaism, we can't stand trickery. We can't stand lies, black lies and white lies. We strive for honesty. We strive for integrity. We strive for truth. So if there's an animal that's going to try and be tricky with you, that's not an animal we like, and maybe we might despise it even more than other animals. But maybe what this answer really alludes to is how we should be truly obsessed with truth. And if there is something that is not true, then maybe we shouldn't include it in our own lives. I know Rabbi Steinsaltz, speaking about my beloved mentor again, Rabbi Steinsaltz was a man of truth who never hesitated to tell you the truth the way it was, not to beat around the bushes, and to truly be as truthful as possible, because Torah emet, we say Moshe emet, v'Torato emet, Moses is truth, and his Torah is the Torah of truth. And that's what we subscribe to. So any trickery of truth, like the pig does, is something that we dislike very strongly. So maybe that's another reason. I just want to conclude with the Kotzker Rebbe, who, it wasn't the Kotzker Rebbe, it was the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, third Rebbe of Chabad, Rabbi Menachem Mendel, who apparently was writing a special Hasidic discourse, and he was asked to add some flowery words to the discourse. Why? So that he can attract more people to him. And he refused. And he said, I will even give up on 50,000 more followers just to stick to the truth. And now, I don't know if most people can say the same thing about themselves. I don't know if I can say the same thing about myself. But it's certainly a possibility to walk into, to consider, to ponder, and maybe even to eventually accept and adopt. So that's how careful we are about truth, and therefore the relationship we have towards pigs.